After 3 years of teasing and titillating, the government has finally released the long-awaited Renters Reform White Paper. It's being billed as a once-in-a-generation shake-up of the lettings industry and something to be feared by all landlords. But what exactly do landlords need to know about these proposals? Well, I've had a quick look at them and here are my initial thoughts. I think you'll be surprised at how quickly we can rattle through them. Well, firstly, it's important to note that this is just a white paper. That means that these are proposals. It's not yet legislation and it's not even yet close to being legislation. That, if it does happen, will happen much further down the line. So there's no cause for alarm. It may be that one day everything in this white paper is implemented, but there's a long way to go yet. Many of the reforms proposed in the white paper are unsurprising. For an example, a blanket ban on refusing to rent to people with children. So we won't go into too much detail on those. The big one, which I'm sure will concern most landlords, is the proposed abolition of Section 21. And let's not beat around the bush, that will definitely happen. It's got cross-party support, it's been promised for a long time, and it will happen. It sounds alarming, doesn't it? No more Section 21. That's the most frequently used manner for a landlord to end a tenancy. However, in my opinion, it doesn't mean that a great deal will change. What is going to happen is that other grounds by which landlords can end tenancies are going to be reviewed and strengthened. For example, the Section 8 ground on regaining possession of a property for rent arrears, that is going to be reformed and strengthened. The same also goes for antisocial behaviour. So there are going to be perfectly legitimate ways in which landlords can regain possession of their property. In fact, all this is doing is winding the clock back. Many landlords may remember assured tenancies, which were the precursor to assured short-hold tenancies. And all it means is that when you're serving notice to take possession of your property back, you have to tick a box citing the reason why you're doing so. Unlike with Section 21, where you had to give no reason for taking back possession of the property, it simply means that you must have a valid reason to take back possession of your property. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to see over the coming months exactly which reasons for ending a tenancy are going to be strengthened and how that pans out. So my best guess is that if you are a landlord and you've taken back possession of your property in the past via Section 21, for the vast majority of those occasions, you're probably still going to be able to do so under the new system. It's just you're going to have to say why you're doing it. Let's talk about pets, because this is something that's grabbed a lot of the headlines, and in fact it's been talked about for months and months leading up to this white paper. The suggestion that tenants will have a right to have a pet in their property. Now, during the pandemic, of course, pet ownership has skyrocketed, yet since 2019 in the Tenant Fees Act, it's become almost impossible for a tenant with a pet to rent a property. Since deposits were capped at 5 weeks' rent, landlords have become incredibly reluctant to take on the additional damage, wear and tear that a pet may inflict on their property. In my opinion, this is mainly headlines. We'll wait to obviously find out the detail, because there may be quite a lot of devil in it, but there will be exceptions to this rule. For example, where head leases do not permit pets, I imagine that would be a valid reason to decline a pet on the tenancy. So I think that for all of the talk of this, it will still be quite difficult for a tenant to rent a property with a pet. But we'll see how that pans out. I certainly don't think that it's something that a lot of landlords are going to be forced into against their will. The last proposal under the white paper, and I told you we'd rattle through them quickly, is the issue of periodic tenancies. So the proposal is that every tenancy will be periodic. Instead of a tenant saying, I'd like to rent this property for 12 months, the landlord would simply agree to a tenancy. And then from day one, that tenancy would be a rolling periodic tenancy. Now, of course, the concern from a landlord's perspective is that a tenant may look to move out after 2 months, and then the property would have to be relet, incurring more fees for the landlord in doing so. However, again, I don't think this is a serious concern. This is something that's already in place in Scotland, and we haven't seen a massive influx of 1, 2 and 3 month tenancies causing higher costs for landlords. It simply hasn't happened. And if you look at average tenancy lengths in the UK, they're kind of between 18 and 24 months now, which is completely, in most instances, down to the tenant's choice. Tenants don't want to be moving every few months. They want to settle down and keep a home for 1 to 2 years. So is there a wide-ranging demand for very short-term tenancies? I don't believe so. But if you're a landlord, I would also speak with your agent closer to when this comes in, because I'm sure agencies will probably be doing what they can to assure landlords that they're not going to be racking up high reletting fees during the course of a short period of time. Well, I hope that's been useful, and we'll obviously have to see how all of this unfurls over the coming months ahead. However, it is refreshing to know the exact proposals that are on the government's agenda, and the fact that there is some light at the end of the tunnel, that soon these reforms may be behind us and actually the new landscape isn't going to be all that different to what we're already used to.